What's up, everybody? So, of course, we just had our 6:30 show, the first time we ever did an inspirational show. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, and also thank you to everyone who's now switching over to the sports side of things. And we're running about 5 minutes behind here because we just got off the air with Rob Maaddi, Remy Maaddi. I appreciate them both coming on. We had a lot of fun with them. It was a good, inspiring talk with everyone, and the gang is joining me here momentarily, but so now we can talk about the actual sports segment of the show. And tonight, of course, the hottest topic that we will talk with Rob Maaddi, who's joining us again for the sports segment of the show, will be about, of course, nothing other than Carson Wentz. Oh, and by the way, before Rob comes on, I will say the word of the day, which we'll talk about it as soon as we're done with the interview with Rob. So just remember that. And another thing as well, as I put out there in the promo, we will have something new tonight, which is spinning the wheel. And the wheel will consist of 14 questions. And randomly, as the number is spun around, there will be a question that I will ask the guys. And there may be a story that goes along with the spinning of the wheel. So thanks to everyone who's joining us again tonight. We appreciate everyone who joined the 6:30 show. Hopefully it inspired you a little bit more. Hopefully we love each other just a bit more. And like I said, we'll be talking Eagles, Phillies. We'll go around the NFL. As a matter of fact, I will bring it up here before Rob comes and joins us back here momentarily. Where are we? We will talk about right here. Abdul Herrera, of course, he's back with the Phillies. There was a comment that Joe Girardi had put out there earlier today with one of the interviews. We'll talk about the Phillies rotation. Also, domestic violence in sports. Has it been ignored? So we'll get into a little bit later on. Also, a little bit of Vince Velasquez. The question of the day that we are asking you guys, how do you feel about bubble wrap? And we'll take that question towards the end of the segment with time's yours. So we got a lot to cover on the show. And of course, again, Rob Maaddi will be back on with us momentarily. So we look for him to pop in here soon. So with that being said, once again, we'll get the show underway. And if you guys missed out, this is the new introduction. Of course, we used to be Broad Street South Sports Talk. We are keeping that name, but we have switched over to Broad Street South because it's about sports, life, and entertainment. So hopefully everyone enjoys the promo. We hope that you guys are all having a great night this Thursday Eve before the weekend, Friday Eve, I guess if you want to call it. So again, join us here momentarily. I'm Angel. This is Broad Street South. All right, and as I introduced him the last time, but the last time he was Mike Fuji because it was an important show. This time, Vito Corleone. Vito, what's happening, Vito?
What's up there? What do you know? What do you say?
Hey, nothing much other than it's beautiful weather down here. 84 degrees. Not trying to rub it in, but it's 84 degrees down here.
So just keep rubbing salt in the wound.
No problem. I try not to, but it's the way it works.
Must be, as they say, it must be nice.
It is. Listen, all you got to do is just move. Just change zip codes. Move. It's so nice. It's definitely worth it. But also, we can't forget the man who brings sports into sports contribution. Sherman, how are you, sir?
I am great. I have one question for the fans. Is anybody tired of shoveling snow?
Yeah.
Anybody? Absolutely insane. Done with it. Bring on the spring weather. Let's go. Angel, bring that weather from Florida up to us.
I'm trying. I sent it to FedEx, but apparently got stuck up there in Tennessee. So maybe you guys will get it in a couple of days. I don't know. Everything else apparently getting stuck up there as well. So who knows? I'm loving it. It's Florida, I will say, other than obviously the people calling it Tampa Bay and all that good fun stuff, but the wintertime, you cannot beat Florida weather. We go through our little cold streaks, and it does get cold down here, folks. It does. But I will tell you this much. We have much warmer days in the winter and fall than I remember being back up in Philly. So I see the comments coming in. We'll get to you guys here momentarily. Hopefully Rob will come on here very shortly. I did send him the invite, so I will do that again as we are speaking just to double check. that I did so, but I did send it to him. But let me do it one more time as we're speaking and going along with the show. First time, by the way, you guys, that it is a double show on a Thursday night. So we do, oops, that might be the reason why. So it's been fun. The first hour was definitely a lot of fun, very inspirational. So thanks to these guys sharing their stories. And Sherman, once again, see, this is where the apologies are starting to feel pretty good. And I apologize because you did have a story as well, and everything was just going so fast. I just completely forgot all about it. So I do apologize, sir.
No worries at all.
So now I see, there he is. So joining us back again is Rob Maaddi. Rob, how are you again?
What's up, guys?
It's been a while.
Good to see you.
Sir, how are you?
Good. So we know, and I see the comments are coming in, so I'm going to get you guys here momentarily. Sorry, Joey, I will start out with his here. I'm so inspired. I got my curling bar out. Thanks, Rob Maaddi. And of course, that was he mentioned it from the show we just previously had on. Joey he's a character. I'll put it that way. But Joey's a lot of fun. Of course, as you saw from the last one. Thursdays, by the way, for those who don't know, Joey takes on the coaching role on Thursdays, and so he'll get to miss a lot of the shows a lot of times, but always great. And thanks to Tom, Ty, everyone who joined us with the last show and is on with us right now. So, Rob, of course, the big news of the day.
Finally, it happened.
To the Colts. So, to me, and I'm pretty sure, as you know, we'll go across the board here. To me, it feels like the Eagles almost really didn't do their due diligence because it doesn't seem like they got a lot in return for what they end up giving up in Carson Wentz.
Well, I think they were in a position where Carson is difficult. It's difficult to trade him at this point because of the contract, because he's coming off the worst season of his career. And when I talked to people a couple of weeks ago at the Super Bowl, they said, first round pick is in line. One guy told me anywhere outside the top 5. Another guy said, more like 16 to 32. And for the Eagles, they got a third-round pick, and then they get the conditional 2 that could become a 1. Carson just has to play 75% of the snaps, which he's done 3 times in his career. He would have done that again this year had he not been benched after 12 games. So as long as he stays healthy, they'll get a 1. So they'll get a 1 and a 3. I think this really was the best case scenario for them. You're not trading a guy at his peak value. You're trading him coming off the worst season of his career. And there's really questions, right? We don't know if Carson's going to go back to 2017 Carson or 2019 December Carson, or if he's more like 2020. Now, I'm willing to bet he'll be that guy who could be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, but you're not going to get multiple for, he's not Deshaun Watson coming off a monster year. He's not Matthew Stafford coming off a very good season. He's coming off a terrible season. A lot of factors involved, guys, for sure. There was a lot of factors involved, a lot of injuries, a lot of young, inexperienced receivers. He didn't have a lot of help around him. But I think that's why the Eagles were in a predicament in having to try and trade him. Like all that talk, when I heard talk like, they're trying to get a Matthew Stafford type deal. Well, of course they're going to ask. You're never going to get if you don't ask. They're going to want as much as possible. But there was a lot of trying to drive up the price, trying to drive up the market. And ultimately it came down to Indianapolis is making the best offer for them right now. And they had a bite on it.
Right. Sherman?
This is a classic delay of gratification situation, right? The Eagles are in a position where no matter who the quarterback is going into the 2021 season, I don't see them being a Super Bowl contender. So for people who are Philadelphia Eagles fans and loyalists, I think that we got to recognize that we're not going to go to the Super Bowl next year, barring something majorly catastrophic with some other teams. So the fact that they moved Wentz and they only got the 3rd and the conditional 2nd, I guess we'll have to see what happens with that. I'll be curious to see, and look, I'm no expert when it comes to sports. Can you talk at all about how Carson Wentz does on the AstroTurf, like playing in a place like Indianapolis as compared to a grass field? Is that more conducive to his style of play? Is it less conducive to his style of play? If you could expand upon that.
It's a good question, right? Playing on that, sometimes it makes guys a little faster, but then there's more wear and tear on the knees and the ligaments and the joints. And he's had a knee injury, significant one. He's had a back injury that kept him out a 4 or 5 games at the end of one season. So any kind of, where now I know this, like the turf nowadays isn't like, remember the old vet with the turf there where guys just like, it was rock hard concrete. There was a one player, Wendell Davis, maybe from the Bears. He blow out both knees like on the same play. Like he tore both ACLs on. Like I've never heard of that. That was so obviously fields have come a long way since then. But that's a good question. I don't really have a great answer for you on that.
Fuji?
2 things. Wendell Davis, it was 1993, and I believe he ended up suing the city of Philadelphia, I believe.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Wow. About Carson, I believe North Dakota State. Don't they play indoors where it's kind of like an AstroTurf type field, if I'm not mistaken?
I don't know. I don't remember. I thought it's outdoor, but I'm not. Now you got me wanting to look it up.
I could have sworn it was indoors, but right now I don't know what to think of this trade. I mean, you got what you could for Wentz. Let me ask you this, Rob. I mean, was there any animosity towards Carson Wentz with this team behind the scenes?
I don't think so.
Going back to the Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, I don't. Mike, I think so much of that stuff was blown way out of proportion, right? So you got a player, and then when you have any player, anybody, you're never going to have 53 guys who love you. And roster's actually bigger than that. You got 53 players, and then you got like a full practice squad. You're never going to have everybody on the same page. You're never going to have everybody who likes you. But when you hear 1 or 2 anonymous people saying something and then they say it again, so what, right? And people take that and they make that the narrative. Like I would have callers who say, "Oh well, Carson's a cancer in the locker room." I'd be like, "Who's saying that?" Jason Kelsey isn't. I trust him. He's a team leader, right? Fletcher Cox isn't saying that. I trust him. He's a team leader. Guys like that, guys of stature, and then even guys like Boston Scott, even guys like Boston, not Boston Scott, but also what's his name?
Miles Sanders.
No, not Miles Sanders. There was Greg Ward. Wide receiver Greg Ward, right? He's had some great so you don't have to be like also a big time all-pro, Pro Bowler team leader to have things that you want to say. So I just think that got blown out of proportion so much that Carson's a bad dude. He's a bad guy. He's not. And this whole situation with the Eagles and this, like there was a lot of misinformation put out there. There was a lot of false narratives that were put out there. And a lot of it started from it starts from one area. It starts from one source. People take it, people hear it, and then they believe it as fact. They believe it is true. And there's a very fine line, right, between what's rumor and speculation and then what's fact. And it shouldn't be. Like if something happened and it's factual, if somebody has an opinion or a belief, and that's just a rumor or that's speculation, it's crossed over too much. And that's what's become difficult in this day and age because there's a rush to put news out there. There's a rush to be opinionated. There's a rush to put out clickbait information. Everybody wants to be noticed. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. And their boundaries have been crossed, and that's unfortunate.
Can you see Howie taking these 2 picks and possibly trading up in the draft, adding multiple picks or a player here to move up in this year?
It's kind of hard to trade the conditional, Mike, because you don't know yet if it's going to vest into a 1 or stay at 2. So that's going to be kind of hard. Like you could trade it, but if it's an acquiring team, they're going to say, well, we don't know if it's going to stay in the second round or if it's going to be in the first round, if it's going to be latter half first round like the Colts. Who knows where they're going to be? They should be somewhere from 26 to 32. So I don't know that he'll package that, but Howie does make a lot of draft day moves. He does make a lot of deals around the draft. And when you look at this team, they got a lot of holes. And the best way to fill holes is by accumulating more draft picks. The problem is I don't think any of you or any Eagles fans have a lot of faith in Howie making those picks.
Right.
Not at all.
No, so true. I want to get to a couple comments here. The other ones, I'll see you guys from the very beginning, but I'll save those for a little bit later on in the show. But Ty says, I don't have a problem with the trade. What grinds my gears is the fact that Harry Roseman cannot draft, so those picks doesn't mean anything because they'll screw them up anyways. Ryan follows it up with, he played himself out of better value. No way Philly was going to do better with what they got. Ty told us that they do play indoors, which then Tom says, will a dome help improve his game?
It's a good question. I don't know how much the dome will help improve his game. You don't have to play in 8 games a year where he doesn't have to worry about any elements. But I don't think Carson's issues were playing in cold weather versus playing in perfect conditions. I think Carson's issues were offensive line, lack of protection, receivers not running the right routes sometimes, receivers not catching the ball sometimes, and then his own personal poor performance. He struggled. His mechanics were a little bit off, and he was a little bit seeing ghosts in the pocket because he's getting hit so often. He's getting hit so much. So I think all of that coupled with, guys, and we didn't even touch on this yet, the offensive system wasn't really catered to his strengths. And now what happens is he's going to Indianapolis, and he's going to play with a guy in Frank Reich, who was the offensive coordinator, who he thrived under here in 2017. And what happened is when Carson got hurt and Nick Foles took over, the Eagles said, well, what can we do with Nick? Let's look at what Nick does best. They looked at what Nick does best. They incorporated a lot of what he did well in 2013 with Chip Kelly, running the read option, and they had success. They won a Super Bowl with that. So they came back in 2018. Frank Reich moved on to the Colts, and they said, let's continue with this type of offense and have Carson fit into it. So they didn't do as much of what they did earlier with Carson, and they started making it more of an offense that fit better to what Nick Foles did, winning the Super Bowl in those playoffs. And Carson's a guy who throws good. He throws very well on the move, on the run, outside the pocket. Their play action doesn't work anymore when they're not running the football, so that doesn't matter. And there was a lot of issues with scheme. So I think Carson now goes to an offense and a system where the coach is going to be able to utilize his talents and his skills and fit them into a system that's going to get him to once again thrive.
All right. I'm going to have a couple comments I'm going to pop in here, and then I got a question about as far as this year when it comes to the Super Bowl. But John Wagner says, Philadelphia has proven to be the most effed up team in the NFL. My head is hung low over this. Ty says, Howie sucks. Where was the other one here? Tom says, do you think Carson has trouble reading a defense?
He didn't have trouble reading a defense in 2017. He didn't have trouble reading a defense in December 2019 when he was going out there with Greg Ward, Josh Perkins, Robert Davis, Deontay Burnett, and guys off the street. He didn't have trouble then. So I don't think so much the issues are him having trouble reading a defense as they were. He was constantly under pressure. He was he didn't trust in his receivers. And I think a big part of those problems were they didn't have time last year. You had a lot of young receivers. The veteran guys were hurt. So you brought in a lot of rookie receivers. Jalen Reagor also got hurt, so he missed a significant portion of time. They didn't have OTAs. They didn't have any really full training camp to be able to work together in the offseason because of COVID through no fault of their own to build a chemistry, to build a rapport. So he didn't have a lot of confidence in guys like Jalen Reagor and John Hightower. And I think that translated on the field. And that part contributed to it. But, of course, he also made poor decisions, held the ball too long at times, and sometimes he just tried to do too much with the football because he felt like he had to do too much with the football. He looked around him. He saw he didn't have enough weapons around him. So he said, I got to be the hero here. And sometimes when you play that hero ball, you suffer and you see the results.
Right. Sherman?
It's going to be tough for Carson Wentz to get back to the Super Bowl. Look, I know the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the NFC won the Super Bowl this year, but you look at the AFC, I think up and down the AFC is stronger. And now Carson Wentz is going to a conference that he's going to have to deal with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and not to mention the Tennessee Titans who are in their division. I think one of the only things that may be going for Carson Wentz and the Colts this year is the fact that they're in the AFC South and they're almost guaranteed 4 wins against Houston and Jacksonville next year because Houston, they're just an absolute mess right now. And I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are about 3 to 4 years away from becoming relevant again. If they draft Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, they're not going to instantly become this better playoff contending team right away. So that's my comment about it. And the Eagles really haven't done Carson Wentz any favors.
No, you're right. And the AFC is stacked, right? When you look at Mahomes in Kansas City, Josh Allen and the year they had in Buffalo, I think Miami's a team on the rise. They barely missed out on the playoffs. I think the Raiders might be able to be a team that works their way into the mix. Not there yet. So there's a lot of competition. Tennessee, wherever Deshaun Watson, if he stays in Houston, for as much of a messy situation as that is, he's still a good enough quarterback. I know they were only a 4-win team this year. There's a lot of competition, but I really like Frank Reich as a head coach. I think the situation for Carson is a good one because he's got a stable offensive line. He's got a very good run game with Jonathan Taylor. They may need a little help at wide receiver. I know T.Y. Hilton's going to be a free agent, so they may have to bring in a little bit more help at wide receiver. So Carson's kind of used to not having like the big number one guy, the DeAndre Hopkins. But I see Indianapolis being a 9-10 win, maybe 11-win team and being a team that gets into the playoffs. I think it always comes down to, guys, whoever gets the home field advantage in the NFL.
Okay. Fuji?
Rob, can you see the Eagles taking the quarterback at number 6?
Man, I can. Because they value quarterbacks so much, right? And it makes sense if you don't think that Jalen Hurts is the answer. Me personally, if I was in charge, and thankfully I'm not because it's not an easy position, but I look at Jalen Hurts and I go, I saw enough out of this kid to where I want to see more. I think he's got potential. I think he's got talent. He's got poise. He's got character. He's got leadership ability. Let's see what he could do over the course of a full year as a starter, not just the last 4 games in a terrible losing environment. Right. Let's see what he could do, because if he's not the answer and you struggle again, you very likely might have a top 10 pick the following year. But you invested a second-round pick in Jalen Hurts. You saw that he has potential. You brought in a new head coach who's supposed to be a quarterback guru. You have a quarterback coach who knows Jalen Hurts very well through his entire life. Let's see what Jalen can do. I would not draft a quarterback at number 1. That said, it would not, nothing would surprise me about this Eagles team.
All right, I want to get. Sorry, guys. Fuji.
I was going to say, from your standpoint, with assuming Trevor Lawrence would go first, and they were to possibly move up or whatever, who would you take out of these quarterbacks coming out, in your opinion?
Man, I'll be honest, Mike. I haven't studied them enough. I haven't looked at the quarterbacks enough. I like Justin Fields for what he did in the playoff, beating Trevor Lawrence. I know then they lost after that, but I like Justin Fields. I like his talent. He's got good size too. But to me, I can't see, when you have so many flaws, so many holes, to invest in another quarterback and to create one more quarterback controversy. Like, you're going from one. Why would you invite another controversy? Let's add talent. Like, with the 6th pick in the draft, you got to draft a super stud who's going to be like a 5-time All-Pro, not Pro Bowler. Forget about that. I need this guy to be an All-Pro, a 5-time, 6-time All-Pro, like a potential Hall of Fame player with the 6th pick in the draft. And whether you do that taking a cornerback or a wide receiver or whatever position you feel you're going to grab at 6, I would much rather do that.
I would love to see the sexy wide receiver, but I think you got to go offensive line.
You can never go wrong offensive line if you hit on them, right? You always need that help.
Before we switch over to Phillies here, I want to get at least 2 comments in there. One from Ty says, do you guys think that Doug Peterson's predictable scheme hindered Wentz, or Wentz's ability, as he follows it up with?
Yeah, for sure. Right. I love Doug, and I thought Doug did a lot of good things when he was here, but I think Doug was a little stubborn too with his system and fitting Carson in to his system, and I think that did hinder him a little bit, for sure.
Okay. And then John says, what's up with the rumors about Foles coming back to Philly? I haven't heard anything about Foles anymore.
That was part of a potential trade that was reported with the Chicago Bears, that he would be part of it. Like, it wouldn't be entirely crazy to think if Nick Foles was a street free agent that the Eagles would bring him in here on a low salary because they know he's a veteran mentor type. He's a great guy to have in a locker room. He's a leader. But I think that would also somewhat be inviting a quarterback controversy, because you got a guy who's a Super Bowl champion. And then the first time Jalen Hurts struggles, you're going to have media, radio hosts, fans calling for, oh, you got Nick Foles. Why don't you bring him in there? So I think they got to be careful with that.
All right. Well, switching over to Philly's gear here. Now, this is a tale of two cities. Usually it's a tale of two tapes, but a tale of two cities. One, today, Citizens Bank Park, of course, the snow coverage. Oh, and then there's Clearwater, Florida.
Oh, how beautiful.
So, again, I'm loving that we're actually going to be able to go back into Spectrum Field, because Debbie and I definitely missed a lot of the games last year as far as when it came to the minor leaguers. So we're definitely excited to get back there. So, of course, the Phillies wanted to sign JT Realmuto, which they did, Rob. And now JT starts off with a fractured thumb. What is it with the injury bug in Philly the past 4 years and counting?
Isn't that so Philly? I had so many people reaching out to me how depressed they were that I actually had to ask JT today. I asked him a couple of questions, and one of them was like, hey, man, this city's down. They're depressed. Carson got traded. Next thing you know, you broke your thumb. You got any words of encouragement for him? And JT's like, well, I can't speak on the Carson situation, but I'm not worried about my thumb. It's not a big deal. So he thinks it might be a couple weeks and he's back. And if he's not back in a couple weeks, if he's got to miss a couple games, that's fine. It's a long, long season. The good thing is it's his throwing hand, guys. Okay. So he can work with these pitchers throughout spring training, just catch the ball, toss it aside, catch the ball, toss it aside. So he can see what the new guys have, especially the bullpen guys. He can get it, develop some chemistry with them, develop a rapport with them, and get a better understanding of what they like to throw.
All right. German?
As Rocky Balboa would say, I should have broke your thumbs. As Fuji Corleone would absolutely love. Talking about the Phillies, I think a lot of people have the hopes that Zach Eflin is going to finally come out of his shell and be that solid number 3 starter in this rotation. Do you think that it's fair that they're putting all the pressure on Zach Eflin? He's an okay pitcher. He's had some shades of success. He had 3 complete games in the last couple of years. But is he truly good enough to be that number 3 and solidify this rotation behind Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler?
I think he's more of a 4 than a 3. And I like – he's got potential. We've seen that in flashes. But we've also seen sometimes where he goes out there and he struggles too. I don't have really high expectations for Zach Eflin. I could see him winning 10, 12 games, having an ERA close to 4 in that range. And I think with this offense, because they can score runs, that's fine. That'll win you a lot of ball games. If he can get you to the 6th inning with a lead, then it's going to be up on the pen. That seems to be right now, guys, much improved. Right. They still got to go out there and do it. But to me, Zach Eflin's closer to a 4 than a 3. I like the acquisitions, though, of Chase Anderson and Matt Moore. I think those are 2 veteran arms who really give the team depth, because if they don't pitch in the starting rotation, maybe they'll add depth to the bullpen. You got Vince Velasquez, who to me I think really at this point should just be a bullpen piece, a guy who can come in there, throw as hard as he can for an inning and move on. And here's the wild card, Spencer Howard, because Spencer Howard at this time last year, everybody was ready. I can't wait to see Spencer Howard. He's the top prospect, all that stuff. And then he has an underwhelming rookie season, and people kind of forget about that. But I still think that Spencer Howard is that guy with the potential that he had last year that made him a prospect. He just needs more time and more seasoning. So you could see him blossom into the number 3 spot in the rotation. Not right off the top, but maybe midway through the season, maybe late in the year.
All right. Bougie?
Rob, as far as leadoff hitter, who would you put leading off for the Phillies right now?
I think they're going to go with Kutch, because he's done it now for a couple of years, and He's a year now. He'll be a year and a half removed from the ACL injury, so he should be stronger a little bit. Feel a little bit more comfortable. Have a little bit more running ability out there. He's not going to be a speed demon, but when you're a year and a half removed from an ACL injury, that's when you really got over it. He's an on-base percentage guy, so I think Kutch will lead off. Andrew McCutchen, Reese Hoskins will hit second. Bryce will hit third. If JT's healthy, he'll be 4, and then you go with Didi Gregorius in the 5-hole. Alec Bohm's a guy that can hit anywhere, really. He can hit from 2 to 7 in a lineup, and to me, that guy is someone that you should really be excited about because we saw what he did as a rookie, and I think he could take another step forward this year and really be an integral part of that lineup.
Do you see the Phillies competing with the Braves and the rest of this division?
I got him at 85. 85 wins to me means you're competitive for a wild card. You may not get that wild card, but I think you'll be competitive for it. They could have, some guys could have breakout years. They need some things to go right for them. But I think to me, I'm comfortable having them in the 85 win range. This is a team that's collapsed 3 years in a row in September, hasn't made the playoffs since 2011, hasn't had a winning season since 2011. So 85 wins is a significant improvement because it'll be their first winning season in 9 years. I can't say they'll be ahead of the Braves yet or the Mets, but I think they'll be in the mix for a wild card hunt.
All right. Sherman, I'm going to get to 2 more comments, Robin. I know we have to let you go here. And I did say the same thing. I believe that we're a third-place team, definitely not a number 1er. But Sherman, I think, may disagree as far as with Kutch because we did talk about a couple of days ago, we were having a little off-screen meeting, and you had a choice word, not choice words, but obviously something about Kutch and not being the leadoff.
Yeah, look, Andrew McCutchen is no longer the MVP that he was when he was playing for Pittsburgh. I think that there's definitely been a drop-off, and some of that can be due to his injury. I don't think that the Phillies have a true leadoff guy on this team. And it's really not fair to Andrew McCutchen to put him in that spot. I believe his on-base percentage last year was .320, which was a significant drop-off to where he normally is. Personally, and this is an unpopular opinion, the person who I would put in the leadoff spot is Bryce Harper. He can run, he walks, he can hit home runs, and there's enough firepower in this offense between Bohm, Reese Hoskins, Didi Gregorius, Gene Segura, JT, that, if Bryce Harper's getting on base because people don't want to pitch to him, let him walk all the time because they have bats that can move him around. And if you put Kutch 6 or 7 in the lineup, he still has that pop in his bat that he can give you 15 to 20 home runs per year, and he doesn't have to rely so much on his speed moving him down in the lineup.
You'd have to convince Joe Girardi. You don't have to convince me. I'm a big believer in you put your best hitters at the top of the lineup. I love having Bryce Harper lead off. Remember when Gabe Kapler did it a few years ago for a handful of games? But I remember when Girardi came in last year, we asked him about that, and he's like, I'm not batting Bryce Harper lead off. Joe's more of a traditional guy, so I think he's definitely going to stick with Kutch unless he struggles. But if you go back to before he tore his ACL, Kutch was a .378 on base percentage guy in 2019. I would take that, right? We would all take .378.
Absolutely.
And he showed pop both years. He had 10 home runs each of the last 2 years in less than 60 games. If he can get closer to that, I think they'll be okay. But I like that idea, Mike. I just don't think Joe will buy it.
Ask the Braves fans how Ronald Acuna is doing in the leadoff spot there. I think he's doing pretty well.
Yep. I would hit Trout in the leadoff spot too. Yeah, I love having because it's only one time a game where you're leading off. That's it. If you're concerned about he's going to hit a solo homer, that's only all right. Every other time after the first time up, he's not leading off the game. He could be leading off the inning, but he could also be leading off the inning, hitting a 2-spot, 3-spot, or anywhere else.
Well, I'm going to combine the last 2 comments. I know we have to let you go, obviously. Tom says, do you like the moves the Phillies are making during the offseason? And John follows up with, do you guys think any of our Philly teams have a chance to go anywhere anytime soon?
I do like the moves the Phillies made because I wasn't expecting them to bring back both JT and Didi Gregorius. So that was a very pleasant surprise. So that was a big part of what they did this offseason, and it keeps that offense, which finished 5th in the league last year and runs scored together. And I think they could take a step forward as an offense. They could be even better than they were last year, because last year JT, Reese Hoskins missed significant time, and Boom came up a little bit midway through the season. So I think the offense can score enough runs. I like what they did with the bullpen. They brought in some arms that can help them. So that's been a big area where they obviously last year historically bad bullpen, but now we got to see that translate. We got to see these guys. It's one thing to bring them in; they got to go out there and do the job. And as far as that second question, do I see any team? I don't think the Phillies are capable of winning it all. Can they go on a run? Maybe. The Eagles are certainly a long way away. The Flyers, are they even going to get back to playing? I know they're finally back in from COVID. Right. I think the Flyers and the Sixers are everybody's best chance. The Sixers on some nights, to me, they look like they can be a NBA Finals contender. And on other nights when either Ben's out or Joel's out, we're like, all right, this team's got no chance. They need all their guys to be healthy. And when they're all healthy, they're a formidable team.
Well, as we let you go, Rob, here, I had that one last question I forgot to ask it as well beforehand, but how different, which I did see going down to the convention center, obviously for Super Bowl 55, how different and or awkward was it with Radio Row this year compared to what we've seen obviously in years past?
It was so different that Radio Row this year, usually it's like 150 tables and it's packed, so many people there. This year it was only 34 tables, all spaced out, and maybe half the radio stations who were assigned to those 34 tables showed up. And even regardless, like all my interviews down there from Barry Sanders, Saquon Barkley, George Kittle, everybody was on Zoom. So even though I was there, nobody else was. So everything was still via Zoom, via virtual. So it was different. It was strange, but it was a great time in Tampa. It was I thought it was a great game, and it worked out very well.
No, I think so as well. I could be wrong, but these guys might completely knock me off there because of the whole Bucs feel for the moment. But again, Eagles fan, still an Eagles fan, and will be an Eagles fan. So I got nothing to worry about. But Rob, listen, thank you so much for coming on again tonight. We do appreciate when Roy came on earlier. So have a great rest of your evening, and we do appreciate you coming on with us.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Good luck and God bless.
Thank you. All right, so with all of that stuff that's going on, and I did see the comments for you guys, and thank you for being so patient. I wanted to make sure that we got the questions in for Rob, so I will go back to Joey B, who's been waiting. He said Rob Maaddi's arms are bigger than Randy Macho Savage, and it's it's up there. Fruity Sherm, Angel Debbie, good evening. And again, Joey, thanks a lot. Carol loves Broad Street South. And we love you too, Joey. Of course, we missed you, so it's nice to see you join us on a Thursday night because I know normally we do see you on Sundays. Corleone, Tom, again, thank you. Hopefully everything is well. The walk of music to Fuji and Sherman are hilarious. So that was something, and Sherman just got his this week, so I'm glad I was able to get that together before we put out the new logo. Ty says, please bring the spring weather. I will try to do my best. I just shoveled this AM here in Colorado. And I'm not too sure, Rick, if you can kind of clarify that one. I think maybe it was a snow comment. Rain tomorrow. Joey says, sorry, looking good, fellas. Sherman, the beard, nice. Sherman, you got a bunch of comments, by the way, too, on the last show about the beard. Just to let you know, of course, Tom says real mutual fractured thumb. Hope he's back on the day, which Rob had talked about it. Ryan says rather shovel snow than my team's BS every year. And did I see another one out here? David says Sherman's beard is awesome. We got to the Howie sucks ass mental. Where was I know there was something else in here as well before we continue on with the NFL. Press Taylor, bring back JT. Alec Boehm. Okay. Alec Boehm reminds me of Jason Worth.
They wear the same number.
Sure do. That they sure do. So now as we go here around the NFL,
28. Number 28, excuse
28.
me.
28. So as we go around the NFL, we got the answers that we were looking for as far as we come to Carson. I still believe within this little nucleus right here, still for what the Eagles did. And I understand, Carson wanted to get out of town. we all get it. We understand. We can somewhat kind of relate. But really, that's pretty much all you end up getting. And Sherman, I know we love to talk about the cap and everything else, but it doesn't help the Eagles come this season.
Yeah, I think that they could have gotten a little bit more for Carson Wentz. If you think back to the 2019 season, in the last 4 games, Carson Wentz found a way to win 4 games. He brought him back to win the game against the Giants. He beat Dallas. He beat Washington. And then he beat the Giants again week 17 with some lower-level receivers, not your household names. And he got them to the playoffs. And then 2020, he regressed. Look, it's not Carson Wentz's fault that 13 games, they had 13 different offensive lines going. The offensive lines really hung him out to dry this year. Jalen Reagor was hurt. Deshaun Jackson was hurt. Alshon Jeffrey was hurt. So he didn't really have a good chance to excel. The game where I thought that Carson Wentz was really going to break out of it was a Monday night game against Seattle, because Seattle had the 32nd pass defense in the league. And Carson Wentz didn't do anything in that game. He passed for like 180 yards until that Hail Mary to Richard Rodgers with about 5 seconds left in the game to get over 200 yards. So, because of that, it decreased his value. You got to think about it like a car, right? You want to trade in a car. If the car has 4,000 miles on it, you might be able to get good value for it. But if you say you want to sell a car or trade it in, and you tell the dealership that the car's been in and out of the shop for the last 12 months, well, they're going to say, well, we'll give you something for it, but we're not going to give you a whole lot. So that's my analogy that I'll bring to the Carson Wentz situation.
Fuji?
The more I sit here and the more we think about on the show, I just don't like the move, because a lot of people don't bring this up, but Mike did make a point. 13 different starting offensive lines. Carson Wentz was probably sacked the most in the NFL this year, which was about almost 50 times. And to me, if the man had the right weapons around like he did in 2017, it might have been a whole different story without all these injuries. Offensive lineman Jason Peters decide whenever the hell he wanted to play. And touch on Rob and Angel and Mike, we've had this conversation back since episode 1. No mini camp, no OTAs, no training camp. The pandemic just did a junk job on the Eagles this year. And Wentz, yeah, I'll be honest, I'm a Carson Wentz fan. Maybe I'm living in 2017, but he was the MVP, and it's just, he was injury-free the last 2 years. He brought the Eagles back in 2019, the last 4 weeks without nothing. And I just hope this isn't going to be like one of those trades, where it's going to shoot the Eagles in the foot, whether they, you go back to history and look at all the dumb moves that every sports team made in this town.
Right. Letting
Reggie White walk, trading Charles Barkley. The list goes on. Moses Malone, whoever. And, it's, as you always say, Mike, be careful what you wish for. And, Wentz he's a couple players away from getting back to that MVP status. Couple receivers, maybe Zach Ertz joins them, but nice running game. Frank Reich, not Philly. The pressure's not on you in Indianapolis. Yeah, you're going up against the AFC, but Wentz could come back to that form. And I just hope that dope general manager at the NovaCare complex, I hope he shoots himself. And he better perform in the damn draft this year, because I hope he's on the hot seat. I'm going to go down that NovaCare and drag him the hell out, because I want this dude fired. It burns me the frig up.
If they draft a quarterback, is that an admission of guilt that Howie Roseman messed up the draft last year?
Yeah, the quarterback factor. Yeah, we're a quarterback factor. You don't know Jack out your ASS. He's not a football guy. Tom Modric, 1999. All right, let's say this. Danny, what was his name? The offensive tackle. The fireman.
Danny Watkins.
Danny Watkins, Marcus Smith, 2014, another idiot move. He thinks he's the smartest man in the room, and he's not. You're a crap biologist. Go back in the room where Chip put you. You damn jackass. I can't stand the guy. Put me in the room in MMA with the dude, and I'll stop a mud hole and like Stone Cold.
That could be a charity.
I approve this message. Thank you.
it could be a charity event. You never know. As we go around the NFL, we're talking Eagles talk here, and there's two guys that we know that we want to get into here momentarily. One being J.J. Watt, who has to release from the Texans, and they released, they granted his wish by releasing him, and of course Deshaun Watson, who also wants out as far as per trade out of Texas, as well. So. JJ Sherman, we've heard that he wants to either go to the Bills because he wants to win now. I'm kind of surprised with him saying that he wants to go to the Cleveland Browns, but I can see why, because the Browns defense has been stepping up. And I tend to forget who was the third one. I'm drawing a blank here. I know there was three teams. Who was it, Mike?
Pittsburgh. His brother,
yes. Correct.
Well, I don't know. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, you want me to start? I mean, J.J. Watt wants to win. And if he wants to go to Buffalo, Cleveland, or Pittsburgh, those are three teams that have shots of getting to the playoffs and furthermore getting to the Super Bowl. And especially if you look at a team like the Cleveland Browns, they are up and coming right now. And they try to pride themselves on defense right now in that black and blue AFC North, right? So I think that would be a really good fit for him, because those games, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, I know that Cincinnati's not a high-performing team right now, but there are some fierce rivalries in those divisions. It doesn't have the same feel of when Houston plays Jacksonville or when Houston plays the Indianapolis Colts. It doesn't feel like that same rivalry. So I think J.J. Watt will end up going to Cleveland. That's my thought.
First of all, J.J. Watt's not going to end up in Pittsburgh, because the way their GM was talking yesterday, Big Ben's owed like $22 million, and that team has too many players, they don't know who to sign. And I don't see J.J. Watt, because I just think they got cap issues in Pittsburgh. I mean, who knows? They could end up releasing Big Ben, or they could trade him.
Right. Now, as far as what Tom says, is the Watt reunion going to happen in Pittsburgh with his brothers, or does he end up in Tampa? I have been saying around here that I believe J.J. Watt will probably end up in Tampa, because one thing you got to remember, too, is he's been injured. He's 32 years old. He's coming off many, many injuries. And if a team is looking to invest into someone, I think J.J. Watt may get like a 1 year, maybe a second year as an option. I don't think Pittsburgh wants to go all in knowing that he may not play the entire season. So if you look at Gronkowski being out here in Tampa, Gronk didn't play the entire season. He was kind of, placed in as needed. And I think they would do the same thing with J.J. Watt as Tampa is trying to build up their defense. You're also looking at, you may have to pay him, $20 million for 1 year to possibly go back to another Super Bowl and win it again with Tom Brady. So it could be a possibility he ends up down here with the Bucs, because, again, whomever gets him, you're not going to give him that multi-million-dollar year as he was still had with the Texans. So to me, I don't believe he ends up in Pittsburgh. He may have a better chance of landing in with the Buffalo Bills. They may give him a 3-year deal, take that gamble. He'll be 35 at that point. But I don't know if the cold air will plague him with all the injuries he have had, even though he's young. But again, when that cold air kicks in, those injuries don't care how young or old you are. So at least that's my little take from it.
Agreed.
The other thing was, just remember, Watt is from Wisconsin, so he may end up in Green Bay. There's been talks about that, but I don't know. Again, I don't know if the Packers are going to take that chance on him, but it could very well be. And then Tom says Deshaun Watson, as we're talking about him as well, to the Jets. I don't see Deshaun in New York unless there's a blockbuster trade. And that's what the rumor is. It's supposed to be a blockbuster trade, just like for Matthew Stafford. Now, there was a picture of Deshaun Watson with at least 5 Miami Dolphin players. So is it a hint that maybe he's leaning on going to Miami, which means that Tua will have to take the back door again, or they trade Tua to the Texans? I don't know. So, Fuji, I'll start with you. Where do you think Deshaun lands?
It's a very good question. I mean, you're going to have to. I'll say that the Jets have the draft picks to give up because when they traded Jamal Adams to Seattle, I believe they ended up getting maybe 2 or 3, at least 3 picks back for him. And they got multiple picks. But I don't know right now because, I mean, they're saying Carolina's like ready to give away the farm. I heard Christian McCaffrey's name was mentioned. And I heard Denver might make a play for him. But I don't know what Elway really has to give up. But
yeah, but he wants to win now, and I don't think Denver's at that point yet.
you talk. No, you're referring about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, if Carolina's got the assets, why not?
Right, Sherman?
The quarterback carousel is just starting, right? You have all of these quarterbacks on the move, right? You have Jared Goff going to the Lions. You got Stafford going to the Rams. You got Jalen Hurts. Who knows if he's going to even stay with the Eagles? He still might get moved. Carson Wentz just went to Indianapolis. Who knows where Aaron Rodgers is going to go, whether he's going to re-sign with Green Bay or what. And now you have Deshaun Watson, who might be one of the most high-profile quarterbacks in the NFL. And where is he going to land? As NFC least people in the three of us, let's hope that Deshaun Watson does not end up in Washington or end up in Dallas, because that could be bad news for the Eagles, not just for next year, but for years to come. There's a lot of quarterbacks still in the move, and it's going to be real interesting to see what happens this offseason.
Yeah, that it will. And by the way, I just want to put this up there real quick. Of course, time's yours, you guys. Starts as soon as the guest is over. So if you guys got questions for us, by all means, make sure you put it in there as well. So time's yours is yours as we're going through and answering your questions as well. So the next topic, which and again, it was a Tuesday night meeting that we ended up having. Abdul Herrera is back with the Phillies. There's a clip that I want to show, and the question is asked to Joe Girardi in the very beginning. And I want to, before we get into the discussion, I want you guys to hear what his response was to the actual question.
A hit when, the domestic violence came out. So to me, it's important that he proves himself to everyone. And he's been afforded that chance because of the collective bargaining agreement.
Do you anticipate any objections from your guys in your clubhouse about if he makes the team?
Well, Jim, I think everyone's going to have a different opinion on this. And I'm okay with that, right? I mean, my opinion, your opinion, this outfielder's opinion, this infielder's opinion, this pitch is all going to be different. But there are a lot of situations in life that are like that, that we all have to deal with. So whatever happens, we got to find a way to deal with it, right? So it will be a topic of conversation. It will be a pulse that
is an objection in that room important enough to you as the manager who essentially presides over team chemistry to say this is not going to work?
I think that it's important, Jim, that I have the feeling of the clubhouse that we do what's best for the organization and for our team moving forward and the production that we can put out. I think it's really important that we take these things into account. But again, the collective bargaining agreement does not allow us to punish a player further than he's already been punished. We're not allowed to do that. So that was something that was negotiated and that we all have to deal with. So
that was brought to you by, just so we can make sure we clarify this, through Twitter from the Philadelphia Phillies themselves, the website. So thanks for that piece there, Joe Girardi. And now, and before I get to the next comment, before I also forget, because we're talking about the media and because Joe Girardi was talked about as well, one of the group that we can't forget, of course, is Last Out Media, which is a podcast for the community and its creative community. So if you guys want to learn how to become podcasters, if you're a podcast, you want to get better at your, at least at the craft, reach out to lastoutmedia.com to John, and Vince, and those guys will take care of you as much as they take care of us. So, all right, now, Sherman, Abdul Herrera is back, right? And as we're going to lead into as well when it comes to domestic violence here in sports, which is it's going to tie the two in together. So he comes back, as Joe says, because of the collective bargaining agreement, the way it's done, so he gets a second chance. How much confidence do you have in Abdul? And not only that, but do you believe he should be back with his organization when we all know what ended up happening with him in the charge against domestic violence?
This is a really tough question. First of all, I'm going to talk about the fact that I'm a high school teacher, right? So when a kid gets suspended or if a kid failed all of it, his or her classes the previous year, when that student comes back the next year, I need to look at that with a clean slate. But you're dealing with a minor. You're dealing with a kid who's trying to graduate so they can get out into the real world, go to college, get a job, or enroll into the military and serve the United States of America. The situation with Odubel Herrera is different, right? You're talking about a player who's earning 6-7 figures, and this is a figure that a lot of people, especially children, could look up to. And do the Philadelphia Phillies want somebody like this in their organization who was involved in a domestic abuse situation? Look, this is not the first time that Philadelphia has had somebody on one of their teams who was involved with something wrong. Look at Brett Myers when he punched his wife in Boston. Look at Mike Vick. And somebody can argue, well, Mike Vick, he did his time. What more do you want from him? Does that make it okay? I don't think that it does make it okay. And I get it. I get it. There's a lot of people who are out there who believe in redemption, that you can better yourself. And I just don't know if having Odubel Herrera on the team is the best look for the Philadelphia Phillies right now. We already get a black eye from the media for throwing snowballs at Santa Claus 70,000 years ago. Odubel Herrera is not Babe Ruth. And look, I'm a married man, and there is no place for domestic violence whatsoever. When you're getting paid all that money, I just think that there's better options. And even if Odubel Herrera was Babe Ruth, you know what? Sometimes it's time to move on and find a better option for him. So if he wants a chance to get back in Major League Baseball and be with the team, I wish him nothing but the best, but I don't think that he's the right fit for the Philadelphia Phillies right now. We don't need to have this domestic violence and the whole center field carousel of who's going to play there. Kingery, Hazley, Roman Quinn, or Odubel Herrera. It's the way that I feel.
Pooch?
I think it's a catch-22 because now there's no room for domestic violence in all sports, but really it's a part of everyday life in reality, and it does need to be addressed. I mean, stuff goes back often. I mean, Mike, what you said about Mike Vick, that's a horse of a different color. I mean, I'm a dog lover, had dogs all my life. Do I condone what Michael Vick did? No, but Michael Vick paid his dues. I forgive the man. He's out there, the Humane Society, trying to promote that. And I know Michael Vick has a dog. If you watch A Football Life, his daughters, he has a couple dogs, I believe. But this stuff has been going on for years. The thing that's different about it today, it's all over social media. Years ago, stuff wasn't even brought to the table. It was more about just a player had an incident like Sean Burke, who played goalie for the Flyers. I think it was thrown out maybe 20 years ago that he assaulted his wife. And no, like I said, there's no place for it in sports. There's no place for it in any profession. But what comes out in the media, it's like, sad to say, but how many men or women, it doesn't have to be a man hitting a woman, there's women that hit men, and both, like, this was domestic, that was domestic. It's, it's all calls Odubel Herrera is just a big name in Philadelphia, and he plays for the Phillies. Could it be Joe Blow up the street? Yeah, sure. It could be anybody. Isn't it?
We take a look. Well, if you look at the situation, right, years ago, of course, we knew it with the Ravens. It was Ray Rice. Ray Rice, and his wife were in the elevator. They got into an altercation, There was a video, obviously, that's showing that Ray Rice had hit his wife. They both admitted guilt, that they both kind of pretty much antagonized each other, provoked each other for that to happen. But it doesn't make it right one way or the other. So, you poked the bear obviously hit you back. Now, Ray Rice and his wife went through therapy. They went through all the channels they had to go through. According to what the NFL said, Ray Rice never got a job again in the NFL. Switch gears, Kareem Hunt with Kansas City. Another video that comes out. It shows Kareem striking a woman. Kansas City lets him go. Cleveland picks him up. Or am I going backwards? Cleveland did pick him up, correct? No, he was Cleveland. Right. Yeah. So, sorry, the reverse factor there. So, Kareem Hunt, last I checked, is still in the NFL. The NFL, because they are the premier of all sports minus the English Soccer League. But it seems like the NFL says, we don't condone domestic violence unless, and this is just my own little opinion here, quote unquote, well, you're making good money for us. So yeah, we see what happened. We saw what happened. There's a video, but denial comes in money. Because with Kareem Hunt, he's still able to play. Now, he came out, again, I think it was with ABC, I forget her name. God bless. It'll come, Robin
Roberts.
There you go. So he comes out with an interview, and she's almost to the point where she doesn't really believe the way Kareem is talking about, because it's almost like it was scripted, almost like some people that we know that likes to write, a bunch of orders. But it's the same way. It's you have this thing that you say, I understand, I did it wrong, blah, blah, blah. Can we move on? So I don't believe that any domestic violence the same way, too, should be administered anywhere whatsoever. If you get that heat in a conversation, Lord knows that I know that I do, at one point or another, I will end up calming down from it, and then better heads will prevail. But that would be almost like Sherman standing in front of me, and Sherman says, I don't like the color blue. Oh, you don't now. So I end up punching him in the face. How good is that going to do me? I'm expecting a punch back, but the punch back may not actually be a fist. It might be lawyers. It could be, something that he will outsmart me with. So it doesn't have to be physical violence, but either way, it's still kind of like domestic. So I know that we get caught up in heat in the moment. I know we do things and say things sometimes out of character, but it's different when you're actually striking someone. So do I believe it belongs anywhere? No, I surely don't. But I just find it funny that the NFL looks at it completely different than anywhere else. Now, Joe Girardi, rest assured, this entire season, that will be on the forefront. Not how the players feel, not how well the team is going to do, not who's going to come through the rotation, because every fan, and I'm pretty sure once they go back up to Philly, there's going to be signs, there's going to be something else when it comes to Abdul Herrera. Just like the Texas Rangers, Houston Astros, they haven't gotten the redemption yet as far as the fans. If they thought that the fans forgot about what they did to win that World Series, they're sadly mistaken, because when the fans come back in the stands, that will pick up right where they left off. So as far as domestic violence, nope, I don't believe in it whatsoever. So that being said, of course, we're looking at now the Phillies rotation. And one guy that I did see, as I take off the banner here with the ticker, where am I here? Archie Bradley, which is part of one of the rotational figures this year for the Phillies. It's just kind of him reporting down to clear.
Good morning, everyone. It is first day of spring. Say hi to my man, Zach Wheeler. He's in my group today. Rocking the Grateful Dead, that Philly Dream, baby. It's gonna be a good year for us Phillies fans. Team. I'm excited. We got a lot of work to do, but
so he's excited. Sherman, how excited are you as far as the Phillies? Did they do good enough this offseason?
Well, I guess time will tell to see if these moves that they made to the bullpen and the rotation were good enough. It's a long season, right? Last year they only played 60 games. Now they have to play 162. And the 162 games that they're playing, they're not only going to be playing in the division this year, they're going to be playing outside of the division. When they have to play those West Coast teams, right, you're dealing with an LA Dodgers team that won the World Series, and you're dealing with Fernando Tatis, who just signed for $340 million with the Padres. So there are some up-and-coming teams and some really good teams out there. It's going to be interesting to see. When we were talking with Rob Maaddi, I think a key piece of this rotation is Zach Eflin, to see how he's going to do. And unfair to Zach Eflin, I think that they're going to try to promote him as a 3. And Zach Eflin is really a 4 pitcher. I would agree with Rob Maaddi. Archie Bradley, it'll be interesting to see if he'll be able to solidify that closer's role. I always liked Hector Neris in the closer role the last couple of years. I know that he blew some saves, but I like the fire that Hector Neris brought to the team. At least they still have him on the team, so if Archie Bradley gets injured or struggles a little bit, they can move Hector Neris into that role. Unfortunately, the last couple of years between David Robertson and Sir Anthony Dominguez, these are some huge pieces that they thought were going to work out for the Phillies, and those two guys just didn't. Adam Morgan has moved on. I believe he moved to the Cubs, and Tommy Hunter went to the Mets. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the starting rotation as well as the bullpen, because there's a lot of arms competing for different spots out there.
Fuji?
As Mike said, I mean, I think Dave Dombrowski has improved the bullpen. Archie Bradley, bringing in some big names. I mean, spending the most money on spending, the biggest names don't mean everything. I mean, sometimes I think they're paying Matt more like $3 million, but, the smallest moves can end up being the best moves later in the season. I still wonder what they're going to do with Gene Segura. Is he going to play second? Will it be Scott Kingery?
No, I think they've already said that Gene Segura is going to be the everyday second baseman, which is going to lead to a drama in center field, whether it's going to be Adam Hazley, Roman Quinn, or Scott Kingery. Now, Kingery is obviously a better defender, so if Alec Boehm struggles at the plate, you could always move Segura to third, or you can move Kingery to third base. But I believe that the plan right now is to have Gene Segura set at second base. And I think overall that's a good move for the Phillies to do. Scott Kingery was terrible last year. Now, whether he was playing with COVID or not, I don't know. How does a professional baseball player flirt with batting 100 for as long as he did last year? I got to think that Scott Kingery is better than that. Defensively, he's obviously better than Segura. But, Segura is on this team mainly to be able to be a hitter. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up winning that center field job, whether it's Kingery, whether it's Hazley, whether it's Quinn, or whether you throw Odubel Herrera into the mix. And if Herrera ends up getting the job or makes the team as a left-handed bat off the bench, how many fans are going to bail on the Phillies because of the fact that Herrera is on the team? There's a lot of people who are not going to tolerate domestic violence in the society.
Yeah, so true.
No doubt. Oh, look, just to say what Rob said earlier, 85 wins, I could possibly see that. I mean, you're playing in a tough division. Pretty much every team in this division is pretty much stacked. From Atlanta to Mets, Florida with their minor league system, Washington. It's going to be a 5-team race to me. I mean, I think the Braves are more than likely the favored for the NL East.
Yeah, the fact that there's one less wild card this year, right? I think they're going back to the 4 division winners and 2 wild cards instead of 3 wild cards. I think that does not bode well for the Phillies. I just think that there's too much competition between LA, San Diego, Atlanta, the Mets, and Washington, and not to mention the St. Louis Cardinals, who not only have Paul Goldschmidt at first base, but they now have Nolan Arenado, who's one of the best third basemen in the league, if not the best, and they got him for practically nothing. So St. Louis is going to be tough to deal with as well. And where do the Phillies fit in with winning the division or getting that wild card? I just don't see it this year until Alec Boehm and Spencer Howard and guys like that truly develop.
Unless Dave Dombrowski can make some moves at the deadline, who knows?
So what are you guys' thoughts here as far as when it comes to Vince Velasquez?
I don't even know why they brought him back. I mean, this guy must have pictures. He's not bad, but back to what Rob said, he should be in the bullpen, not in the starting rotation. Now, I know the guy below says this might heat up in debate real fast.
No, I don't know if it's going to heat up into debate. Look, Vince Velasquez has had a tumultuous career with the Philadelphia Phillies. It seems that for every 1 step forward that he takes 3 steps back. And the book on him seems to be that he can only go through the lineup 1 time. And if that's the case, maybe you make him a 7th inning guy. throw as hard as you can for one inning and get guys out. I'd be curious to see and ask the two of you, do you think that Vince Velasquez has the mentality to be the closer for this team, being that he only seems to be good for one inning?
Good question. Good question. I think he could have it. I think if he works with a pitching coach, good point there, Sherman. I think he actually could be. He could be a solid closer at least, or not your every other day closer for sure. I don't think setup guy. I don't think I put him out there, but you're right though. I think he could be a good closer.
Well, yeah, I think he brings the psyche to the table.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple incidents that have happened in his career with the Phillies that just like he has the heart of a Philly athlete, right?
Well, remember when he had 18 strikeouts in that one game, the way he acted after I think he went the distance too.
He was fired up in that game against the Padres, as I recall. And then remember the game when he was pitching and he took the line drive off of his right arm, picked the ball up with his left arm, and he threw a BB to first base. And then think about the time when they had to bring him into the game where Roman Quinn was pitching and Vince Velasquez was playing left field in that Friday night game against the White Sox when he made two ridiculous throws to the plate. I mean, this guy is an athlete, and it's a shame that he hasn't had the fortune that I would hope for him to have in Philadelphia. And if he's not going to work as the 4 or 5 man in the rotation, move him to the bullpen, see what he can do there, because I think that he has the heart, the Philly tough heart, that he can succeed with this team.
That's true. Tom says when Vince Velasquez pitches, it's like a 5-hour game, and Ryan says it's a long season, gentlemen. I'm not sure they'll get through a full COVID season, which is both good points. So the question of the day, which was interesting when we talked about it a couple days ago, and Mike brought up a good point here. Of course, completely switching gears is bubble wrap, and we like to see what you guys have to say as far as popping the bubble wrap. Me personally, it's either the super twist where it drives everybody nuts, or it's the fun tap dance when it comes to the bubble wrap, because it is. When you have kids, it's fun because you put it on the floor and they go running through it until they can pop all of them. So at least to me, that I think my first one would actually be stepping on it and hearing it pop a lot more, at least try to make it pop harder than versus ringing it together. So Sherman, you in bubble wrap.
Oh, wow. I absolutely love bubble wrap. Twist it, the louder, the better. I know it drives my wife nuts. She orders a lot of product, and I'm not going to promote where she's ordering the product from, but she orders a lot of product, and these things, they come shipped in bubble wrap. And, it's much better than styrofoam. I'm not a tap dancer, tap dancing on the bubble wrap, but I love popping those bubbles. And the louder and louder, the better. I know it drives my wife absolutely crazy. But me, I love it. I put a poll out on Facebook the other night, and most of the people who responded were like, yeah, they love the bubble wrap. One of the people responded by saying, so my question was, what is your stance on bubble wrap? And this guy's response was, what is your stance on breathing? And and I thought it was great because of the fact that, my stance on breathing is it's very important, and bubble wrap just as important. If I ever got a roll of bubble wrap for Christmas, I would be very content with that.
Just annoy the hell out of somebody.
It's
agitate them.
Well, you figure so. As far as Sherman and I, we're in the school system, and a lot of times, of course, the teachers, same thing. They'll purchase a product from somewhere, if not locally, and they'll bring it to school because they know that if there's one kid that's been out of line, and the other kids go nuts if the one does something. So you'll see the teacher kind of looking at the kid like kind of slam the ball right. Here you go. And then it starts from there, just pop, pop, pop. And the kids, oh my God, that's so annoying. But it gets the job done because then the other kids stop doing whatever they were doing. So I agree. I think it's really funny. And again, as we're coming up on the end of the show here, again, you guys want to ask us questions, by all means, time's yours always starts when the guest is completed from our show. So Tom says, actually, it's very therapeutic. And it is for a lot of people. It is. It definitely is. So the one other thing that we want to bring out now is something that we're going to hope to keep going here as the shows go along. So again, the professor had a genius idea, and I will let the genius himself talk about what's coming up next.
So because of the fact that we have this segment called Time's Yours, we as a unit, we've gotten to the situation where we now have a wheel with 14 sectors on it. And basically what we're going to do at least one time per show is spin the wheel. And based upon what number it lands upon, Angel was the host of the show, has a random question based upon what the number is going to be. So I don't even know what the question is going to be. If it lands on 10, he might ask one question. If it lands on 6, he might land on another question. But what we're going to do, we're going to spin this wheel, and Angel's going to come up with a question, and the three of us are going to have an opportunity to answer it. But we also want to hear from you as to what your answer is to the question as well. So here we go. If you guys are ready, without further ado, here's a spin of the wheel for the first time on Broad Street South. Make sure you're sharing on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and anywhere else you can. Here we go. Spin, yeah! And it is going to land on the lucky number. Where did it land on? The lucky number 5. Green 5. Good old Donovan McNabb. Angel, what is our question for good old number 5?
Yes, number 5.
Number 5 will always love you.
Yeah, I was just about to say it, but you got it. So my question would be, and I was kind of thinking about it, have you guys, and including, of course, the viewers as well, have you ever run out of gas? That's my question for the evening.
Oh, wow. Who wants to start? I mean,
I can't say that because I always keep my tank pretty much filled.
You are a better man than I. Years ago, I went out to watch Monday Night Football at the Hollywood Bistro. If anyone remembers that place, it's not there anymore. And coming home, it was a misty night, and I didn't have much gas in the car, apparently, and my gas gauge was broken, and I got to Ron and Bustleton, and there it was. I ran out of gas. Oh, fill in the blank. And there's a gas station right there, so I'm like, great, I'll get some gas. But with my luck, of course, the gas station was closed. So there I was. I walked from Ron and Bustleton to Ron and the Boulevard where that Sunoco was, and I didn't have a gas tank. I was too cheap to buy a gas tank. So there it was. I had a Gatorade bottle, and I filled up the Gatorade bottle with a little bit of gas. So embarrassed. Walked back to the car, got a little bit of gas. I was able to get home that night. But how embarrassing. If you, the listeners, are out there, if you've ever run out of gas, you know what a terrible feeling that is, how embarrassing it could be. We would love to hear your stories on that. But, yes, I have run out of gas before. And unlike Fuji up there, I'm a classic person where I don't really start thinking about gas until I'm on E and practically running out of gas. And at the age of 47, I need to get better at that, but sometimes things do not change. So that is my story.
Tom says he's never run out of gas. He's full of it, but never ran out of it. As we all get older,
Thanks for sharing.
It happens. Bloating is real, folks. As far as for me now, I do keep my car, obviously topped off as much many travels I do throughout my day. But the one time I was with my cousin, this is back in the 80s, and he was dating this girl, and he didn't have a car. So I asked my dad, hey, by the way, can we borrow your car? And my dad had a 79 Gray Marquis. He had just bought it. But my dad says to me, oh, by the way, the needle, I think it might be stuck. So just watch out for that. Now, mind you, my dad would always make sure that if the car needed repair, the car would get repaired. But he said it only happened there. It may have happened once, maybe twice, so he didn't worry about it. So I figured, all right, well, Dad put gas in the car because the man would never travel anywhere without a full tank of gas. And so off we go. We pick up these two girls. We go on a date, which is my cousin dating these. He's trying to make the choice of the two girls. I'm just a chaperone because I was a nerd back in the day. And so my vocabulary wasn't that great to talk to women. I was with the guy just holding up the wall saying, yeah, you want to dance? Yeah, well, I'm sorry, the wall needs right now. So I wasn't that great back then. So we're heading back home to drop the girls off, and we're at 5th and Girard. And anybody knows 5th and Girard is not the best place to be, especially during the late night hours, especially come the weekends. So there was a Merit gas station. I'm pretty sure Merit's not even around anymore. But the Merit gas station was there, and as we're passing by it, all of a sudden the car just conks out. I thought, boy, that's kind of weird. What happened there? So we try to start it up. It doesn't start. Well, come to find out, it was a faulty needle. So what ended up happening was the girls left, wished, my cousin and I a good night, and then off they went. And I looked at my cousin, well, genius, now what do we do? This is your date, not mine. And now I'm stuck because I got Dad's car. Well, let's just sleep here. So we slept in the car overnight so no one break into the car. The next day, my aunt, my dad's sister, calls up my dad. My dad shows up on site and goes, So what do you two geniuses do? Right? Wait, listen, we stayed in the car so the car wouldn't get broken into. He goes, didn't I tell you something about the gas? I'm like, yeah, you told me about the needle. And he says, well, did you bother putting gas in it? So, yeah, didn't put gas in it. We look like two schmucks. And again, it didn't bother me any because, again, it wasn't my date. So I didn't care. He looked more of a bigger schmuck than I did. So, but either way, I was still a schmuck because I ran out of gas. So that's my story when it comes to running out of gas. But listen, to everybody tonight, we do thank everyone. We thank you especially for tuning in to the back-to-back shows. First time in our short history as far as podcasting. And I believe it went well. We had a lot of fun when it came to the first show with Rob and Remy. We do appreciate it. I think it was very uplifting, something that we needed. And, of course, the show that followed here, which we're running about an hour and 20 minutes into it. But it's been fun. We thank you guys for the comments. We do appreciate it. We hope to see everyone again next Thursday, same time, 7:30. And we do have a guest for you guys as well. It'll be Phillies related, so look for a Phillies sports show coming next week from Broad Street South. So if you guys have anything in closing, by any chance?
Wanted to thank the fans, everybody viewing, everybody new checking in, seeing a few different faces coming on that were new to the show, checking us out. Yeah, as you were saying, thank Rob and Remy for coming on, with their time and with the inspirational show. We hope to have them on again. And just like I said, we're the people's show. Without you, we're not here. We need you to make it happen. And thank you. Everybody have a good weekend. And hopefully 50 degrees won't come soon enough next Wednesday. But thank you, everyone.
Sherman?
Carson Wentz has officially been traded, but the Eagles saga seems like it's just getting started. And if you want to get Eagles news or hear about the Phillies, Flyers, or Sixers, stick with us because we have a lot to say. We have opinions about it. The three of us might not be experts, but, man, I'll tell you, the three of us are passionate about what we are talking about. So come join us every Thursday night. Put those questions in the chat box. Share us out on YouTube. Share us out on Twitch. Share us out on Twitter. Share us out on Facebook. Tell your friends. Tell anybody out there because we're going to be bringing it for weeks and months and years to come. Thank you for joining us tonight.
We hope so. And in case you guys want some worth, again, this is, the Tale of Two Cities, Citizens Bank Park, and, of course, down here at Spectrum Field. So if I can send worth, I'll send it through the picture there so you guys can end up having it. But, again, thanks to everybody who tuned into the show tonight. We do appreciate, again, to Rob and Remy. And, by the way, just to let you guys know, if you ever need to reach out to someone, don't feel like you can't even reach out to us. If you're going through something in life, make sure you reach out, you talk to someone, and don't forget that God is always there next to you. And there is I wish I had the number. There is a 1-800 number to a suicide prevention hotline. In case you are ever thinking about it, you can always talk to someone. So don't ever forget that you're never alone. So for Mike Fuji, for Mike Sherman, sports contributor, thank you guys for watching. We will see you next Thursday night at 7:30. Have a good night.